home against Buffalo on Wednesday. Go ahead with questions for Coach Miller.
The final part of the season, what challenges are presented when you see these teams for the second time around?
You know, certainly when you play teams the second time, the big thing is everybody knows personnel so well. And by now, you're into your groove on not adding a lot more right now coming out of the bye week. What you have in is typically what you go with down the stretch. So your scouting is very heavy from both teams. So there's probably not a lot of secrets, and it is what it is. It's hard the second time around, and with a young team, there's many players on our roster that haven't done this. And in Buffalo's situation, Buffalo's playing better basketball now, and I told the team today, never have I seen a team which is last place in the standings that is this dangerous. They had Toledo beat, they had Central beat, they put up 92 points in a loss, so they're a very, very dangerous team, and we fortunately got by them the first time with their starting center in foul trouble most of the night, who can create a major mismatch. So I'm excited about the second round of the MAC, but we start off with, you know, a tough one to hold serve at home.
All right, I certainly don't want to make this a bigger issue than it is. After the game on Saturday, you said the frustrating part for you is because of your health issue, you guys weren't prepared enough at the end of the game. Is that part of a bigger problem, do you think, or is that a problem going forward or not? You know,
I wasn't asked to expand on it, so I understand why people took that information as it. I'm a person through the years that has typically watched a minimum of 7 game tapes of somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 hours of film on an opponent before we play every game. And in order to do that, you have to have some all-nighters. And my lifestyle through the years in coaching has not been able to take care of myself, and has afforded me the opportunity, the way I've coached, is to put in countless hours on every single opponent film-wise. Because of that, I know tendencies and can share tendencies with our team that maybe they don't even know, that they tend to run plays out of timeouts, that they tend to run these plays at this time of the game, that they tend to run the defense that I think they're going to run at that time of the game. I questioned my judgment, knowing my instinct was Toledo switches late in games. But because I hadn't watched the amount of film, the 15 hours that I have for, you know, 10 years of my coaching career at BG, that has changed a little bit recently. I questioned my judgment if, in fact, they would switch or not, and didn't trust my first instinct. So, did we make a poor read on the play? Certainly we didn't execute. Did I make a call that could have been better? I could have. And so I'm never going to put that onus on 18 to 22-year-olds. That's me. And I just, you know, I second-guessed myself late in that huddle. And some of that had to do with I didn't have 15 hours of film work on Toledo like I typically would. And I just had that little bit of doubt. And because of it, we didn't run as good a play as we could have. Certainly players got to go make plays. Coaches get too much credit when we win, and coaches probably get too much, you know, too much blame when we lose. Players got to go make plays, and we played a heck of a game, came up short.
So are you done pulling the all-nighters?
I'm not done working hard, I can tell you that. But, you know, like a typical Buffalo game, for example, in the past, on Tuesday, I will start to prepare for our weekend game, Akron. On Wednesday, on game day, I'm watching Akron, even though we're getting ready to play Buffalo. The game ends, I do the press conference, I walk out of the arena, I get home at 9:30, hug my family, get something to eat, and at 10 o'clock, usually until the middle of the morning, I'm watching film on, you know, for this case, Akron. I just can't do that. I know I got to be smarter now. And so, are we worse off that I don't watch 15 hours of film and we watch 10 hours of film? We're not. I have to be comfortable in my skin that I'm not watching as much film, and still knowing that the team is absolutely prepared, my coaches are absolutely prepared. That's just who I've been for so long that, you question yourself when you don't pull all-nighters. Am I being outworked? Am I going to be outcoached? And that's one of the personalities that has allowed me to be successful here. And I got to find that comfort zone.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff, please.
I was going to say, you can't assign Kevin to stay up all night.
Well, my staff works really, really hard. They work endless hours too, but they make fun of me. They say I need a hobby, and my hobby has been film watching. It truly has through the years.
Will you talk a little bit about the second half from an offensive standpoint? I mean, watching the tape, it looked like you guys were grinding just to get good shots, and obviously didn't make many. And just, was that you? Was it them? Was it a combination?
Definitely a combination. You got to give Toledo's defensive credit. I thought they did a better job taking away some of our penetration, and they were really physical, and they are the most physical team in the league, and the physicality didn't bother us in the first half. I didn't think we did as good a job. We have to get the ball in the paint, and that's either by penetration or some low post catches, and we didn't get it in there the amount of times that we need to. And either our screening's got to be better so our penetration can get that and make that happen, or we got to get some post catches. And then, frankly, even with that said, we threw a lot of jabs. We threw a lot of body blows. We were one punch away from winning a huge game. And when you look back at some of the shots we did miss, I think we felt like we got enough looks to have that one punch. We just didn't get it to go in. Jasmine Matthews played unbelievable defense the whole night. She made one mistake, and we didn't get a hedge to help her out, and Ingersoll made her pay. But at the other end, she didn't have some legs, and when your starting 1 and 2 player go 2 for 20 in the game, it's hard to win a big game. We needed a third scorer against Toledo. We got great performances at the offensive end out of Chrissy and Lex. We were one scorer away. We just didn't have a third scorer step up. And in a big game against a talented team, you need that third scorer.
Well, you talked a little bit about what you saw offensively second half. What did you learn about your team from that game in a general sense? Well,
I was really proud of them that we competed and we were tough. We walked in there. What people fail to know, we've had 2 people on our roster that had walked on the court at Savage and never played. And neither one of those kids had ever started a game. Jess Slagle and Chrissy Steffen had never started a game in Savage Hall. And you're playing in that atmosphere in a game that means a lot against a really talented team. Our team didn't back down. And I was really proud of them. What I learned this morning was, how are we going to react from the first loss since before Christmas? I mean, we haven't walked into practice in the new year coming off of a loss, and I wanted to see how they were practiced today. And they were upbeat, they were hungry, no one talked about Toledo. All we did was, think about Buffalo and prepare hard for Buffalo. And Jasmine Matthews shot the ball incredibly today in practice, and so she wasn't thinking about it. And so I was really, really pleased that we competed, disappointed that we didn't play well in the last 4 minutes. Championship teams have to play in those last 4 minutes better. But I loved our approach today, that, again, our program never gets too high, never gets too low. We control our own fate. We control our own destiny. And the Buffalo game, the only thing we're thinking about, we're not thinking the totality of the East the second time around. If we beat Buffalo, we secure one of the top 4 seeds. That's all this game means to us. That's all we're focused on. One of the goals at the beginning of the year was a top 4 seed. And we have a chance to do that Wednesday with a home win.
What has Buffalo been doing a little bit better now maybe than they did the first time?
Well, they're very, very good offensively, and they have one of the premier offensive players in the league in Brittany Henderson. She scored nearly 30 points against us the first time, and most of those shots were contested. She's just a shot maker that can make tough shots, even when you're guarding her. So that is always a concern when you have a kid that can go get you 30 on any night. They have a low post presence that's really blossomed into her own. She's big and long and poses a lot of problems, and we were fortunate it didn't play against her a lot the first time because of foul trouble. But what I'm most impressed with is they've gone to more of a matchup zone. And they took that matchup zone into Muncie and held the home team to 30-some points and beat them by over 20 on the road. And then they took that matchup zone and played Central the other night, one of the best offensive teams night in and night out in the MAC, and they grinded them into the 50s until they had the foul late and it got into the 60s. But they've defended with this matchup zone a lot better. It is confusing. It is active. They really do a good job of disrupting you, and they're much more confident now at this point in the season in that matchup zone than they were earlier. So we're going to have to make some shots if they pull that zone off against us. We shot them out of it the first time, but they're playing it much better now.
If you don't shoot them out of it, are there things that you need to do to have some success against it?
Well, again, one of the stats that you bring up that was a disappointment is that we did try to grind a little bit too much against Toledo. We had no fast break points, not one. And we ran the ball well against Buffalo the first time. So between points off turnovers or fast break points where we're just getting out and running and pushing harder off misses, if we're going to struggle at times in the half court, we have to get an easy basket. We have to get defense creating offense, or we have to get some transition points off of a long rebound. And so we really pushed the ball harder in practice today, and we're going to try to get the game up tempo, because we know we've had moments and stretches in every game where our offense has been a struggle this year. So any easy basket would do us a great job, even if we're missing some shots.
How about the concept has been rumored for bracket busters for women's basketball like the men? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea for mid-majors. I think it would be where the men's basketball, you know, I might be wrong on this, started out and it wasn't the whole country. It was pairing, you know, the high-profile mid-majors. Is there a place for bracket busters in the women's game for high-profile mid-majors? I think it would be a great idea. The high mid-majors have trouble scheduling, and then they're always criticized for their RPI. And so creating bracket busters for some of the elite mid-majors would be great. With that said, I know, for one, the bye date in the MAC schedule is so important to get healthy and to take a deep breath and get a rest. And so when you tell our men that we get a bye date, and then you tell the men that they have to play bracket buster, they look at you and just go, I wish we had a bye date. And so, you know, the contrary to that is the women's coaches really, really like the fact that in the MAC we have a bye date, and we think it's very important for the health and well-being of our players throughout the year.
Could the game be scheduled at a different time than the men's game, though? Would you think maybe a holiday time between Christmas and New Year's might be a good week to have a game like that?
I think there's a lot of options that could be on the table for that, and the people a lot smarter than me would have to figure that out.
Well, they're not going to come and ask me either.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you.
Coach, would you talk a little bit, and I realize this season isn't over, there are games to be played, a tournament to be played, and so forth. Would you kind of rank the job that you and your coaching staff have done this season as compared to years past?
You're asking me to talk about ourselves. I think that it's beyond my thought process that we're sitting where we're at. You know, we weren't going to change our expectations and our culture, and we believed we had built a program and not just a team. But this year was a rebuilding year. I mean, we just had no proven scoring. I mean, I listened to someone the other night talk about Miami of Florida women's basketball program, which is ranked in the top 10 in the nation, and they have two separate 2,000-plus point scorers, and they talked about no one ever graduates 4,500 points in a season. And I just wanted to call up and say, we just graduated 6,000 points. And so I can't be more proud of my coaching staff, and that we challenged them from the beginning. We weren't going to settle for less than their best effort, and what we believe is so important in our programs, doing the little things. And so absolutely ecstatic and beyond words of where we're at with 2.5 weeks to go in the regular season. With that said, we could lose 5 straight and lose 6 straight to end the season, and it would be a disappointment to where we put ourselves in position for. But you know, with one returning starter, one kid in their college career for a season that averaged over 4 points, to do what we've done after starting 0-2, we put ourselves in position every single night to win a game after that first game, and you can't ask for anything more from you know, a program. In terms of my assistant coaches, because of what has developed this year in you know, my health scare and the stroke, they've taken on even added roles through this last few weeks, and never once felt sorry for themselves, never once even hesitated to know what they needed to do, and that's why I'm so blessed to have a veteran staff and a staff that's been with me the whole time, and that's a huge piece of why we've been successful.
Based on where you're at now compared to what the internal expectations are, and by that I mean, yeah, you had the what you wanted to do as a program and culture and so forth, but also knowing what you had lost. Is there more pressure now to keep this going, or is it, man, you know, we're playing with house money now, we've already exceeded some expectations?
You would like to think that the attitude is we're playing with house money, and I think at the end of the season, regardless of what happens, we're going to look back and go, what a year. But because we're in it and we put ourselves in position right now, there's no doubt that we feel a lot of pressure. And that's why this team can't think about going 5-0 to win the league, or it won't happen. And they can't think about, you know, going 4-1 and we'll tie at worst for a regular season championship. You know, they can't, or quickly we'll go 2-3, or something like that down the stretch. We've got to continue to do what we've always done and take one game at a time, focus really, really hard on our opponent, and know that each game is very important in the grand scheme of things, but can't get ahead of ourselves. But I think, without question, from coaches to players, because we are where we're at, we feel more pressure than we ever thought we would this year. You know, we thought this whole year was kind of be rebuilding and people would understand. Well, that has gone away, and that's a great problem to have.
Anything else? Okay.